Hi, I'm Sam Bogoch, CEO of Axel AI, and welcome to our second investor call here on the Republic platform. Today, we thought we'd start off with kind of a brief demo by Patrice Gouttebel, our VP of Product Management. We also have Katie Scott, who's our VP of Operations, on the line. So the three of us will be available to answer questions after Patrice's demo. And look forward to any questions or thoughts that folks may have in the audience, but we'll probably dive in from there. So with that, I would say over to you, Patrice.
Thank you, Sam, and thank you for everybody for joining. And let me start by sharing my screen. I believe people can see my screen right now. Just confirming with Sam and Katie. So
yeah, looks good. Oh, and by the way, before we even dive in, what we're going to cover today is our flagship product, Axel AI 2020, and this was just launched last week. Look forward to already some strong market adoption. We've had a bunch of inquiries specifically about the remote access features, but also more generally about the ability to work with high-res video through a browser, which is one of the key things that our product enables. So, you know, our demo today will be quite brief, and we'll just kind of cover the high points. And obviously, if we were to do an in-depth demo for a potential client, that might be, you know, get more into the details. But I think from an investor standpoint, what's important to note is that this is our core product. It drives the majority of our revenues. And we will be doing demos in the next 2 weeks of our other two products, Axel's connector product, which is launching in its 2020 version next week. And then subsequent to that, we'll be arranging a demo of a Scribe, which is our lightweight freemium transcription product. Over to you.
Sounds good. Thank you again. So let me just briefly explain to you what Axel does in a way. So here in my particular case, I'm working off a laptop and I only have a folder, but you need to consider Axel as a server first and foremost for video teams. So you will have multiple video editors or producers, other people working off their videos, and they all have typically access to their footage into one location that is accessible from everybody over the network. So this is one thing to consider. So when you have multiple people contributing, it is important to have the right tools to find the media after. You can have somebody come shoot in New York and then somebody else go shoot, you know, in New Jersey. And when they come back together, everything is coming in. How do you find the stuff? And this is where actually Axel is. So Axel runs the web browser, but it is not a cloud solution. Everything remains local and on-premise. So, and the reason is because the typical video format now is so big, whether you talk about 4K, 8K, and more, it will be impractical not only to upload that to the web, but also to edit from the cloud with such a high resolution. So everything remains local, including Axel. That being said, we have put in place tools that will allow people where it is required to work remotely to be able to still access their footage remotely. And this is why Axel is accessible from the web browser. Once I log in, let me just quickly correct my username here. So once I log in, I will basically have access to the files I'm authorized to see. And on the left side, you will see the folder structure. So remember the Finder window that I brought over earlier? Well, this is basically the same folder here that is reflected on my web browser. So if it were, again, storage that is accessible over the network, same thing, I would just ask Axel to index, and I will have the same thing happen. The folder structure shown on the left side, the content of the file, so it can be audio, it can be video, and you know in a snap whether or not is the video you're interested in because you can quickly scrub through the thumbnail. So each changes that happen on the storage that Axel is monitoring is going to be picked up, and Axel is going to automatically update its database. And that is also true for creating the previews that I see right here. So if I were to click now on a folder on the left side, I will be able to see the content of the folder. And again, I can quickly see if it is the video that I am interested in. And now we'll click on the video, and from there, you will see the preview of the video. And that is again something we create automatically. And we do it so that you do not need to worry about, do I have the right software to play the video? You know, if somebody shoots, for example, from the camera A, do I need to install something from the camera vendor to be able to play the video? So because Axel takes care of all of that, it is automatic, you don't need to worry about. Also, we are creating a smaller version of the video that is that will be basically not taking as much bandwidth. So if you do have 4K, 8K or more, that will be very heavy on previewing from your web browser, you will not run into the issue. I can scrub through the video. You will see here that I have man speaking as a comment. So you can also post tags on your video. That can be toward the on the timeline of the video, so I know exactly where these specific tags are associated within the video, or it can be user tags on the right side, where you will see basically the possibility for me to choose, for example, Rachel as a producer. Location, I can change it to Boston. Checkbox, you have the date, radio buttons. So you can choose a wide variety of type of data that you will tag your video with. And that would become searchable. But that would still mean that actually you have a lot of tools that will do that, right? Let me step back. You have Lightroom, you know, if I launch iPhoto on my Mac, I will be able to post a little descriptions and stuff. So, but that still requires me to do that. And let's face it, nobody is really spending the time to do it. You know? And you can have companies with a lot of people, but still nobody will spend the time to tag their assets. And this is why the AI piece is very critical in Axel. Now, what do we do for that? So here I have all my tags. So I know it's an F1 interview. It has been shot in Boston, supposedly, you know, on the February 6, 2020. But who appears on the video and what is being said? This is not available here. But by running through AI, I was able to determine the 3 drivers that are currently giving their press conferences. And that was done automatically. So I know where Daniel Ricciardo is happening or Lewis Hamilton. And you see exactly with the blue area where they appear in the video. You have also objects, so such as the hat, so you know what appears in the video as well. So you can search for cats, you know, you can search for specific animals, alligator, you know, birds, whales. You can search for cars, so you can find different objects in the video very quickly in a snap. But more importantly, what has been really the killer feature was a transcript. So what is being said in the video? You can have a lot of interviews being shot and you can know what is being said and search against it. And that is why Axel is really key for many media teams and video teams to shoot, locate, and reuse their media. Now, once I have all this stuff happening, and by the way, you can edit the transcript, of course, and it will follow. And whenever you're done with it, you can create an export of your transcript. I forgot to mention that. But now, when I have all of that done, remember I was saying, like, let's search for crocodile, for example. I will find this clip. No idea what it is, but I have basically the footage right here. Let me click on it and see if I go to the object detection and I'll filter for crocodile. Here we go. I have American crocodile, crocodile, not crocodile. So it was not sure which type of crocodile, but I do know that I have a crocodile right here. And as you can see, it was actually relatively fast. Let's go back a little bit in the video. You will see that it appears right here. So I know exactly where in this video the crocodile appears. And I can do a lot with, for example, bird. I will have aquatic bird or just a normal bird. And again, you will see exactly where they appear. That's actually mistagged, but here is another tag with the bird. So you have all this information available. And that is why Axel has been the application of choice for many video teams to go in and find their media quickly, because we are leveraging all these AI technologies to help them automatically tag their media, because nobody spent the time to tag. And with that, I'm going to pause a moment, see if we have any questions, and hand it back over to you, Sam.
Thanks, Patrice. Yeah, hopefully that will give folks a general overview. One thing I would also add is that because everything you're seeing happens through a browser, it is fairly, I would say, essential for customers who are making this transition to remote workflows because of COVID-19. So the history of the media space is that people generally work in what's called a sneaker net environment, where they're like passing each other their hard drives and sitting down next to each other and looking at the same screen and saying, oh, I like that. Oh, I don't like that as much. It's a very kind of old-fashioned workflow. And of course, before SneakerNet with digital files, there was SneakerNet with videotape. So people, you probably remember that scene from broadcast news where the woman comes hurtling down the hallway with the tape in her hand and just jams it into the deck, just in time to go live for the nightly news. Well, I mean, those days are mostly behind us, but nowadays it's people running around with SSD cards or hard drives. It's not that different. And at the more advanced locations, like the ones that, for instance, I used to visit when I was with Avid doing the high-end broadcast setups, they would have this networked. But that was only at the very tip of the iceberg in this industry, and there are hundreds of thousands of media teams out there that don't have the access to those latest networking technologies. So for them, something like Axel is really unprecedented, because the older ways of doing things are pretty primitive. And so essentially we're looking to disrupt that and give them modern workflows, modern tools all through their browser.
Exactly. And if I am remote, basically I found this clip, I am remote, I am not at the site where this video resides, I can just say, okay, I would need this file to commit. I don't know what's going on. I need this file to commit download. And I can grab the original or even a proxy, so I do not spend my time downloading files, and I can make a rough edit from the lowest proxy in Axel. And this has been the most common tool. We are coming up also with more recommendations for remote editing, but that has been the current workflow.
And that being said, also, many of our customers will use editing software from Adobe. That's kind of the mass market leader right now, is Adobe Premiere. So in addition to the browser interface that Patrice has been showing you, we also have an interface inside of Premiere, which is essentially a panel. So that's another way to access the same server, also remotely over the network. This particular workflow works best if you are in fact connected to the storage, but that can be done over a VPN or other wide area network solution. So maybe if you just want to briefly show how the Premiere panel works.
Yes, definitely. So let me just briefly log out. So let's pretend I do not have anything. Here I am in Premiere editing mode, and I would simply just look for my Axel panel. Here it is. Once I enter my password, just like the same login screen that I have in Axel, once I enter my password, I will see the access level that I have, and I can do the same kind of search. So if you remember, I had Lewis Hamilton as a person, so I can search and I will find this particular clip with Lewis Hamilton. I can simply just go in and grab it, and that's it. Now I have the high-res media. We are going to bring in as markers all the AI tags that Axel has, but this is basically that's basically it, and I can just go for it, look at it, prepare my in and out points. So I'm not going to bore you too much with editing. It's a whole different things, but basically now that I have what I need, I'll simply just go in and start to edit files, and I can go back and forth between Axel and look for other. I can search for multiple files. So if I do, for example, Axel, it will bring me a lot of different things. Let me do video just to filter it down, and here we go. So I have, for example, let me take these two files here. I can bring in multiple files at once based on the search results.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was about to say that's pretty much it. You know, again, very simple, very elegant. So
and obviously, So the thing I was going to mention was obviously there's a lot going on here in the user interface. That most of that is the Premiere user interface, which of course users of Adobe's Creative Suite will already be familiar with. Our piece is that panel in the upper left, and then the interface to the rest of the application, which, as Patrice has pointed out, is pretty seamless. So you can drag it around, you can dock it in a particular place in the user interface, and then effectively it becomes part of the Adobe user experience, if you will. People don't have to retrain or learn something new. And in that sense, it gives us a leg up because a number of our competitors try to actually change the way people work, and in some cases even promote a different editing software. And we see our role as being an enabler inside the industry. We want to work with the Adobes, the Avids, the Final Cut from Apple. Those have been, the main targets for what we're doing. So we do have one question, which is, what's the business model for our selling this? And excuse me. So typically in the past, we've sold this as a one-time license, a perpetual license, and now we're transitioning it to more of a SaaS model.
Okay, there. Actually, while this was happening, we have another question. Where does the server reside? So that's what I was explaining earlier. It's basically local. Any video teams that will typically have a room with their videos in one storage, they will have actually a computer running the actual server piece sitting next to the storage. So it is all local. And again, everything is typically cloud. You know, when you talk about everybody else, what they are doing, it's cloud, 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 cloud. The reality is the video space is not there yet. It's extremely demanding, not only in CPU, but in bandwidth. Like when we talk about 80K, if I were to give some example, you know, where if you take a movie that fits in a DVD, it's actually, you know, 4 times smaller than what a camera will shoot in terms of size of the frame. But not only that, it may actually be also probably 10 times, if not more, smaller in terms of quality of the video that you will have. And this is why you cannot go back and forth with a full DVD just to have like a 10-minute clip or 20 minutes clip. You know, it's not practical in a cloud. So this restriction is it's still there. Now, when 5G comes in, they will have actually much more speed coming up, or maybe they will find even a better compression model for the videos. That may change, but as of today, it is still the case. So we have companies that have been extremely creative in using Axel outside and making it available for remote work. And we are learning a lot more recently for obvious reasons. And we are coming up with very good workflows actually for many of our clients.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I mean, even 5G today is typically only implemented in the downlink direction so that you can stream, but there is no uplink for 5G across the North American providers. That may happen in the next few years. The other thing is these new satellite services like Elon Musk's, where they're like putting hundreds of satellites or even thousands in low Earth orbit. And, so if that really kicks in and if the bandwidth is there, then we could see video being treated more like a cloud-based medium. But today, especially if you're shooting 4K and above, it's just a lost cause. So they typically go straight to hard drives, and then those hard drives are copied onto a network storage device. But it's primarily on premise, and then typically later in the production chain, like when they get to final material, they'll upload that to YouTube or Vimeo or Netflix, wherever they're going to broadcast it from. But the early stages are overwhelmingly close to where the material is shot, just because you can FedEx it and you can certainly manually copy it around, but the bandwidth of almost all of the available connections is too low to allow direct editing of the high-res media.
Another
Let's see,
question.
other questions.
Yeah, another question. Who is the competitor? Who is the competition for Axel?
So actually, there's a nice write-up of this on the Republic site that we put together. There are, I'd say, a few categories of competitor. We don't have direct competition today, but there's certainly enough indirect competition. So it's not like we've got clear sailing and nobody else is doing this. What basically differentiates us from the other companies in the space is that, first of all, we're completely focused on software to accomplish this. There are a group of storage companies in the video industry who are doing affordable storage devices that start at around $10,000, say, and those often will bundle their own software, which is a subset of our capabilities. So if you buy one of those storage systems, you might feel the less of an imperative to go out and look at something like Axel, because your storage system includes some of that functionality. So that's one group. Another group is, in fact, cloud providers of kind of AI and storage services, people like Google or Amazon or Microsoft. And so they have, to some degree, some of these capabilities, but largely unpackaged. So you can sort of buy one from column A, one from column B. You could implement something like Axel if you went to the Amazon site and kind of built a Frankenstein out of all the services they provide, but they're not really giving you a solution. They're just saying, well, here's all these cool services. And so that does not really directly compete with us. But it's, in the long term, as we get stronger and get a larger footprint on premise, it will start to, I would say, become adjacent to what these cloud vendors are doing. And we actually are making a joint announcement with one of the leading cloud vendors in early May about how we can kind of be an on-ramp for their cloud service. Then there's the big systems companies in the broadcast industry, people like Avid or their competitors at Delette or BizRT. And these folks make, $500,000 and up big enterprise systems. Again, not directly competitive, but certainly a company that has one of those might feel less need to go looking for something affordable and lightweight like ours. And so for that reason, we don't really compete for the, I would say, enterprise broadcast business, because that's a different world. And if we're the Excel spreadsheet, they're the SAP. It's just a whole different universe up there. And then finally, there's a group of companies that do AI-driven tagging and metadata search. And in this, I would include Veritone, which is a publicly held company, and also companies like Digital Anarchy and Gray Meta. They're doing some of the services that we provide, and there's some overlap, but not enough to be directly competitive. Digital Anarchy is just a plugin for Adobe Premiere, and Veritone and Gray Meta are much more like the enterprise vendors in that they focus on large multi-$100,000 contracts. So we kind of fill the gap between these small desktop utilities that are quite limited in their scope, and big enterprise products that are way more expensive than us. There's a huge kind of market opportunity there. And I would say the price points, the total customer value is anywhere in the range of, say, $500 up to $50,000. That's our sweet spot. And we do not have any direct competitors in that space today.
One thing I would like to add to Sam's point about the last category and all these AI tagging companies, they provide solutions which oftentimes is targeted to specific items, but you still need to go in and do the coding to integrate with their engines. They don't provide a platform. They provide a technology, but they don't provide the platform. Where we differentiate ourselves is we provide the platform where you have a list of your videos, the tags, and it becomes searchable and accessible to your video editing of choice. And this is one of the main differentiator.
Yep. Okay, any other questions? We're at the half-hour point, and we could adjourn unless there are additional questions, but anything else? All right, with that, I think we will adjourn this call. The next call will have a similar demo and discussion of our connector workflow product, which is complementary to what you've seen today. But thanks very much for joining, and look forward to further conversations. Thanks, Patrice. Thanks, Katie.
Thank you very much, everyone, for attending.
Thank you.
Bye.